Hi everyone, how are you all doing today? Hope you all are being blessed. I just wanted to come today and share with you all my past experience, and as a Seventh Day Adventist, as an SDA, why I support and attend GYC and why you should too. What is GYC? GYC is Generation Youth for Christ, and it's a big gather. It's a large gathering of mostly Adventist young people, young adults. It's also for people of any age. People of all ages are welcome, but it's specifically geared for the young adults. And I've been going. I went to my first GYC 2018 going into 2019, so I was about 20 years old, and now we are in 2025 going into 2026, and God willing I will be at the GYC in Orlando. I believe this will be my fourth one. I've been to 2018 going into 2019, that was Houston. Then the following year it was in Kentucky, and then I was in Phoenix. I believe that was 2022 going into 2023. And so forth. But I just want to give you a little background what GYC is. So GYC, again, it's a youth gathering, happens once a year, large youth gathering, anywhere between 3,000 to 5,000 young adults or people from all ages, mostly Adventists, and sometimes it could even go past 5,000. But there's also little GYC chapters. For instance, you have GYC Southeast, which is located in Southern Adventist University. I used to go to that. They have it twice a year, a spring conference and fall conference. I haven't been able to attend in a while because I've been traveling a lot and also working a lot. You also have GYC Northeast. You have GYC Northwest, I believe, and GYC Southwest. I believe they also have a GYC in GYC in Guatemala, because when I graduated from AFCO 2022, I went down to Guatemala to do a series with Amazing Facts and the rest of the AFCO graduates, and Pastor Doug came and he did a GYC event in Guatemala. And you might have a few GYC chapters in Europe and other parts of the globe. So there's GYC chapters, but there's one main event at the end of the year, and those events always are a blessing to attend. Always are. They preach the truth, the Bible, the spirit of prophecy. You have seminars, showing the sanctuary message, Adventist history, and doctrinal questions, doctrinal topics, and even relationship topics or things geared to young adults. If you want something on relationship issues, or if you want something on Bible facts and Bible doctrines and teaching, spirit of prophecy, and so forth. I've never had a bad experience with the speakers at GYC or with the seminars at GYC. It's all sound doctrine. I really enjoy it, and that is one of the reasons why I keep going and I support it. My first GYC, as I said, was in 2018 going into 2019. I believe that was Houston, and speaker was great. I believe the speaker was Steve Conway, I think, and very good speaker. The following year, Dean Cullen, again, did great, and so forth. And that was my first GYC. That was the first time I ever been to a place where you have thousands of people that share your faith, thousands of Adventists, especially young adults. And before that, I never really heard of GYC. I heard it mentioned, but never bothered to look it up, what it is. And coming from, I'm an Adventist. I'm a Seventh Day Adventist. I was born into the Adventist Church, and I am a member of the Seventh Day Adventist Church currently. But when I was younger, my parents took us and we started attending an independent church, an independent Adventist church, self-supporting ministry. And if you want to know my opinion on self-supporting ministries, I have positive and negative experiences on that, and everybody kind of has positives and negatives on many things. So I have positives and negative experiences in independent churches, SDA churches. And you could see that in the video I did by the grace of God on false present truth and independent ministries, self-supportive ministries, and the Seventh Day Adventist Church. I have that on Expounding Adventist Truth. I will have it also on the description below. So coming from being mostly raised in that background, we went into a independent SDA church when I was about 11, 12 years old, and I stayed there all the way till I started slowly breaking out when I was about 17, but I kind of did a main breakout when I was about 22 years old or something. Anyways, again, good and bad experiences, negative and positive experiences on both. And what's basically being taught or insinuated in many of these independent churches, again, I'm not going to say all because I don't know all, but mostly the ones that I've been to, most of the ministers, again, many of these ministers, again, I'm going to say many or most, I'm not going to say all, because I've met a few good, humble ministers, but many of these ministers in the independent churches have a prideful, Pharisaic, self-righteous attitude such as I've never seen any minister in the conference churches. I'm just going to be straightly honest with you. They think they know it all. They think that because they've read all volumes of the testimonies that they've received the master's degree of divinity, and that whatever they say goes. They hate being questioned. When you question their position on something, you know, I'm a preacher too. Somebody comes with me with questions, I welcome questions. Hey, I might learn from it. They might learn from it. You know, we always should go back and study the Bible and reason. Most of these ministers hate being questioned. They think that whatever they say is the gospel truth, God approved, and that's it. They'll have a very hard time hanging out with Paul because Paul said, hey, the Bereans fact check me all the time to see if what I said was so. So a lot of these ministers, they generally insinuate that the Adventist church is in apostasy. All churches are in apostasy, and their independent church is the only place, or one of the only places where you can find the truth, you know, the Bible and spirit of prophecy and doctrines and all these stuff. And they'll spend a lot of time, Sabbath after Sabbath, most of the time, just bashing the Adventist church and looking at apostasy as if apostasy doesn't exist in their own independent churches. That's kind of ironic. So I was kind of in the mentality that all these Adventist churches are apostates. They're in a Babylonian, Laodicean condition, as if the Laodicean condition doesn't apply to Adventist and independent churches as well. You know, the Laodicean condition only applies to the Adventist church in the conference, in the organization, and the spirit of prophecy is kind of banned from Adventist churches. You know, they don't read it. They don't want to read it. No one preaches on the sanctuary message, the truth, the present truth, which I now know that most of their versions of present truth is a false present truth. Real present truth, you know, Ellen White talks about this in Early Writings, page 63, that real present truth messages consist of the sanctuary, the laws of God, the commandments of God, basically all the fundamentals of the Adventist faith. But they claim that they're the only ones with present truth. Present truth is not taught in Adventist churches and so forth. So, you know, that was kind of the mindset that I was in, especially in my teenage years. And I would see many Adventist churches and I would say, those people are kind of in apostasy. They're in darkness and so forth. And at around the age of 15, actually more towards 17, I started going to some Adventist churches. From the age of 17 all the way till from 17 to 24, that age group, I started to go out and attend different Adventist churches, look at other Adventist ministries. Again, I discovered GYC and I started attending GYC. Again, this is all sponsored and supported by the conference, by the SDA organization, the Seventh Day Adventist Church, and started traveling around, looking at other churches, just seeing if what I was kind of taught or insinuated in these independent churches by many independent ministers was true. And I'm going to tell you, when I went to GYC for the first time, I was very surprised. I was very shocked. I mean, here you have the spirit of prophecy is always being mentioned, is always being read. And again, I was taught with the understanding that no one in the Adventist church kind of wants the spirit of prophecy or reads it, and they shun it. Even when I go to the regular Adventist churches, the spirit of prophecy was read in the sermons. And, you know, in GYC, they're talking about the sanctuary. Those were things that even to this day, certain independent ministers are like, the sanctuary is a topic not spoke about in the Adventist church. They don't want to study the sanctuary. And this is what I started to realize. You could have 10 Adventist churches. 4 of them might fall into some type of apostasy and do things that are contrary to the Bible and the spirit of prophecy, and go, you know, the liberal and extreme, and accept some of these non-biblical stuff. And you might have 6 churches that are more in line with the spirit of prophecy in the Bible and stick more to the Adventist standards, you know, dress and health and other things. And I'm not talking about taking it to an extreme. I'm talking about just what the spirit of prophecy says. I know there's people who take things to an extreme. So you'll have 4 liberal churches, and you'll have 4 churches that are more grounded on the biblical truth and standards based on the Bible and spirit of prophecy. And these independent ministers would dwell on the 4 that have gone off on the deep end, that have, according to them, apostate, and have allowed a whole bunch of, according to them, abominations and sins and so forth to happen. And they'll dwell on the 4, and that's all. They'll just preach on the sins and things that are happening on these 4 churches to their congregation. And their congregation then believes that all 10 of the Adventist churches are in apostasy, because the ministers in these independent churches are not telling you that, hey, there are also some churches that are pretty good. Some of them even better than the independent churches. You know, their attitudes are a lot more better. And as I started traveling and started seeing many churches, multiple churches, I said, okay, yeah, you have your more liberal churches that kind of mimic more like the world, but then you also have your more conservative churches that stay with the Bible and spirit of prophecy standards. But these churches that stick with the Bible and spirit of prophecy standards aren't really being mentioned. The only ones that are being mentioned are the churches that try to go like the world. As Ellen White says, there's a desire to mimic, to basically pattern our churches after the churches of the world, and the standards of everything, dress, health, and entertainment and music has lowered. But these are the only things that these ministers in the independent churches will talk about. Just the churches that have a more worldly, liberal mindset. They won't tell you much about the churches that are more in Bible truth. So I'm coming to GYC and I'm saying, wait a minute, you have good heavenly music here. You have people dressed modestly and correct, especially the women. The sanctuary message is being preached. The commandments of God are being preached. The spirit of prophecy is definitely being preached. Bible truth is definitely being spoken about. You know, I went, my first time at GYC, I went to a seminar by, I believe it's Norman McNulty, and he was talking about some of the standards that the Adventist church basically came down on, how we lowered the standards of truth with this whole, during the 50s, with this whole questions on doctrine thing, which eventually led the way for greater apostasy, especially when it came to the sanctuary, attacking the investigative judgment and the sanctuary message and so forth. And I'm saying, wait a minute, you're telling me that in an Adventist place you are speaking about some wrongs that the Adventist church did and how it's is still affecting us today. But the difference is that in these places, you know, I thought the Adventist church doesn't do this. If you want to find out about wrongs in the church, go to some independent minister. That's what I thought. Here, Norman McNulty is showing how we lowered our standards and caved into some of the worldly churches and kind of, in a way, many times denied our faith in the sanctuary message, and we kind of compromise. That's what the word I'm looking for. We kind of compromise our sanctuary message on the Sanctuary and Investigative Judgment in 1844 and stuff. And Norman McNulty is dealing with this and the history of what was going on and how it's affecting us today. And I'm just drinking it in. I love this stuff. And I realized that he is kindly rebuking the church, but in righteousness building the church up. And completely opposite of my experience in most of these independent churches and the pastors, their ministers, they will rebuke the church in a condemnatory manner and do not offer the cure. They do not rebuke in righteousness. And many times their churches need to be rebuked. And I'm saying, wow, I thought this is a complete opposite of what I thought Adventist churches would be. I go to other Adventist churches and I'm saying, wow, the spirit of prophecy is welcome here. People do pay attention to certain Adventist standards. And I also encountered some of your more liberal churches as well, that they don't care how you sing or how you dress or what you profess and all that. I'm not saying they don't exist. But it was opposite of what my mindset was in independent churches. So I go to GYC and I'm just loving it. I haven't had, to the best of my knowledge, what I can remember, I haven't had a negative experience yet. Everything that I've heard is straight up from the Bible and the spirit of prophecy. The sanctuary messages are preached. The three angels messages are being preached. Real present truth is being spoken, especially to the young people. And, I was coming from a mindset that these things were kind of never spoken of in the churches. The spirit of prophecy is kind of shunned. No one wants to know. Nobody teaches the sanctuary message anymore. I go to some of these Adventist churches and they're teaching the sanctuary message many times, more times than the independent churches are. While the independent churches are Sabbath after Sabbath just spending their time to rebuke the church. That's why I always say if the government or the Adventist Church Conference organization just ceases to exist, many of these independent preachers will go up to the pulpit Sabbath morning and just be like, what are we going to talk about? Because they spend so much time on false on false present truth, which is just rebuking the sins of the church to the world. And again, Ellen White talks about this and the negatives of that. But they spend so much time on rebuking the church or rebuking the government. That's another issue Ellen White talks against. That if the government and the church were to vanish, what are you going to preach about? Many times they have nothing to preach about. They've left the platform of real present truth according to early writings, page 63. So that's my experience in GYC. That's why I support it, and I really enjoy it. And you should take the time to, go to YouTube and just write GYC. Check out some of their messages, their services. Again, their music is very, very well done. No bedlam of noise, mumbo jumbo, very elegant, heavenly music. I wish all churches would mimic that. Their dress code and their dress standards is well, and that standard is uplifted according to the Bible and spirit of prophecy, modesty. I wish many churches would pick up on that. That's something that is being slowly lost sight of. And the Bible and spirit of prophecy, the sanctuary message, and other messages that we should be hearing. GYC many times, especially for me, it's more of a time of self-reflection, of examining yourself. Again, these messages really get your heart stirred up. They really get you in a position of, soul searching. Is your heart right with God? Confess your sins. Listen to the gospel. Accept the present truth. And again, I really enjoy my time there. The speakers are awesome. The seminars are great. Different topics. And this is something that, like I said earlier, coming out from the independent mindset, I didn't believe none of this ever existed. I was like, really? Because all I'm listening to is the negative things being done in certain other churches. And I began to quickly see that certain of these other churches are more in the minority. And yeah, that is my experience at GYC. Again, Generation Youth for Christ. You can share your experiences in the comments below. And like I said, like, share, and subscribe. I hope this helps. If you are going to be in GYC this year, God willing, I will be there. You will find me, God willing, at the Amazing Facts booth at GYC in the exhibition hall. So yeah, let me know what you think about. Like I said, I love GYC. I'm gonna try to go to GYC Southeast possibly next year, maybe. And that's at Southern Adventist University. They have a spring conference and a fall conference. Again, very good. Even I would even go there when I used to go. And you have preachers like Wes Peppers, Ivor Myers, and a few others. Again, preaching very good Bible, Spirit, Prophecy, solid doctrine messages. And these are things that I didn't even know was going on, coming out of a independent mindset. I didn't think things like that existed. So yeah, I really enjoy GYC, love it. Always try to go whenever I have the chance. So it's going to be in Orlando this year. It's not too far away from home, maybe about a 7-hour drive. So yeah, God willing, I will be there. And if you're going to be there, just write in the comments. Look forward to meeting you. And yeah, check GYC out. It might be something, especially if you have young adults or young people. You can go as a church group or individually. And I believe it's something that you will really enjoy. The messages really uplift and you learn a lot. And it's just a very, very great time to share and meet new people, especially of like-minded faiths. And many ministries are there at the booths, at the exhibition hall, and you could meet a lot of people, a lot of elders in the church, ministries that do very wonderful things, ministries that will not be mentioned by these independent churches, because then their people, their congregation might have the idea that there are a lot of good things that are happening in the conference churches, and that's a fact that some ministers do not want to give to their people. So yeah, I hope that you are able to make it and look it up and see if that's something that you may have of interest. So until then, I hope God continues to bless you and you'll have a blessed day.